Thank you very much. So I will be speaking about role of insurance and pension schemes in enhancing the discussion on affordable housing. So the role of an insurer is not just to support you on giving you risk transfer. They can also be investors, and you've seen that a lot in the South African market. Yeah. So that's my presentation. So I think we have 15 minutes. So I just want to focus on the key items. Size of the market in Kenya, just to give you a brief of how the Kenyan market looks like. Unique focus on Africa. I think when we talk about affordable housing, it's critical that you understand what market you're entering into, especially Africa, innovative products, and then just some technical challenges that members see. So let's talk about focus on Nairobi, Kenya, size of the market for you to see. So what I've done, I've put for you 2 slides up. One is on the pension side. So pensions in Kenya are about $10 billion. And then the insurance sector is about $5 billion. Now, if you were to look at where they invest normally, it's normally government securities, a third of the book, quoted equities, and immovable property. So it's possible to move some of this money into affordable housing, and it's also possible for you to leverage on the pension schemes to see whether you can invest half-half on them, because as you see, most of them are government securities, quoted equities, and immovable properties. Very few are doing rates, or private equity deals, so that's something you can look at. You need focus on African market. I always like showing people this slide because they always, in my opinion, don't really understand the continent. So I like showing this slide, first of all, because it shows you Africa. So on the left-hand side is Africa's 1 billion people, and on the right-hand side is Africa's GDP per capita. And you can see the dark zones on the left-hand side is where the most population is. So apart from Nigeria, the dark zones are in the Kenya, DRC region. Very few people are down there except for South Africa. And the joke in the market is always, in Kenya we had more babies last year than the population of Namibia. So you can understand what you're talking about. And the GDP per capita is on the other side, which just shows you, even though we have 3 trillion GDP, the population really drops that number down. And this is now share of GDP by sector. So agriculture, industry, and services. The agriculture side is on the left-hand side. You can see the sectors, the markets which are more agricultural are the red areas, so the Tanzania, DRC. So if you really want to look at affordable housing, farmers, don't forget those markets. On the industry side, the slide in the middle is on the blue zones are more industrial than others, so the Angola types. Kenya is less industrialized, less dependent of industry, so in terms of oil and gas and things like that. But the service side, you can see a lot of our markets are, still services are key contributor to the GDP. The second part on affordable housing discussion is Human Development Index, which is looks at 3 things: how long people are living, knowledge in terms of education, and also standard of living. And you can see Africa really does, the blue zones have, high HDI, Human Development Index. Africa is really not that bright. But if you break that number and you look at top 10 globally, obviously Norway is number 1 as of the stats for 2016. And you look at top 10 in Africa, what is really interesting is really the number 1 is Seychelles. Why? Because Seychelles only has 90,000 people. Yeah? So they may have a high GDP, but obviously if you're a father with 5 children or a father with 1 child, it's a big difference. So just to emphasize this point more, I took some graphs on the population of Norway, which is the number 1 Human Development Index. And Norway, since the year 2000, has only added 1 million people. So in terms of affordable housing, it's okay. Kenya, we've added 17 million people over the same period. So the discussion about the market, you need to be really aware that population growth is really one of the key factors when you're looking at housing people. Yeah. So that's a very critical statistic for you. So let's talk about innovative products that we can look at. So primarily, to get insurance to give you really good products that you can work with, life insurance is one of the critical lines that you can look at, whether you are an investor or you're looking at supporting a product. There's unitized business, there's income drawdown and deposit administration, which you can work with to develop your product. So as a builder, you can also approach the insurance where you develop the product and give them the investment vehicle to execute that product. Right now, most insurance companies just want to invest in bonds because they have a guaranteed return. But if you can give us a good story, I'm sure you can be able to enhance that. On the other side, what investors can do is what my previous presenter was talking about, the guarantees, the MT760s. So the bank can actually provide, they can de-risk, the insurer can de-risk the bank, where they take out your credit risk and provide for you some kind of paper to back the bank. So that's another area that the insurance companies can give you support on. Key technical challenges, I just want to talk about this. You know, sometimes people may assume why this is not happening, so let's talk about why it's not happening. One is, I don't know if you can see this slide, but each asset class, if you see how most investors look at it, they look at 6 key things: credit risk, what's the likelihood I'll get my money back, what's the yield, what's the volatility of my yield, is it stable, what are my expenses, what's my liquidity, can I exit, and taxes. And you can see property really has, you know, high credit risk, low liquidity, not a very encouraging class. So if you look at the other areas that the pension schemes look at, if an investor can come and de-risk some of these risks that they're looking at, it can be a very attractive area to look at, especially affordable housing. Number 2, there's regulation, risk-based provision, where if an insurer or a pension invests in housing or property, they're actually charged because of the potential of drops in the market. For insurance, it's 40%. So if an insurer puts $1 billion in property, they actually hit 40% on their capital. So that's something to really consider. And also concentration risk, if they have one single property or a single property exposure, there are also issues on that. Next is stress testing, where they stress the asset of the property, and also they stress the liability on that side where the risks we talked about. So that's something that as an investor or a builder, you need to make sure you provide comfort on. Yeah, so thank you very much.